Come on. There we go. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Comics for All. Thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. My name is Jameson. I'm your host here at Comics for All, a comics librarian, and Comics for All is where comics, creativity, and community all connect. Today is Thursday, June 11th, 2026. So, again, thank you for joining us. We have an interview series called Ink and Insight, where we interview people involved with comics from all over. And today we have Kyle from Noggin Comics joining us. But, Kyle, how is your Thursday going?
Great. I mean, I just got done with work about 2 hours ago. But in that time period, I was able to sit down and read the new Absolute Catwoman. So I can't complain
Hey,
about that.
love that. Got some comics involved there.
Mhm.
Well, as a librarian, I like to ask some reader-centric questions to everybody who comes on. But Kyle, what hooked you specifically into comics as a reader? When did you start seeking out comics to read?
Uh, so this is a two-part answer.
Sure.
It started off as trades. I was not a single issue collector, but my dad gifted me, not gifted me, he handed down this old copy of The Crow.
Ooh.
So this is my very first comic I ever owned. Um, Unfortunately, I was too young to be reading something like that. He gave that to me when I was like 11. It would be about 5, 6 years later that I discovered The Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns, V for Vendetta, because 2008 was when you had that explosion. You had Iron Man, The Dark Knight, the Watchmen film. So those all played a major influence on me because I was just going to college for a film degree, just about to start off. And then I met Nora, well, not Nora, my fiance. I met her in 2016, and in 2018 is when we started collecting single issues together. And it was the Dark Knight Metal series. I don't know if you
Yes,
remember that, the event.
I do.
Um, it was the excitement and the hype behind that got us into the comic shop getting weekly comics. And we have not missed a Wednesday ever since 2018, I feel like. Even during
Dang.
the pandemic, we were finding ways to get comic books in the house and stuff like that. So yeah, that is my journey into how I started reading comic books. Now I read more single issues than I do trays, and I'm running out of space.
I hear you on that one. Well, kind of the follow-up to that, when did you realize you wanted to, be part of the comics industry or even cover it or provide coverage in some capacity?
I feel like that goes back to school. I ended up I got my associates in film, and unfortunately, Minnesota is not really a hotbed for filmmaking.
Yep.
So I gotta do something. I gotta find something else that I enjoy. I hit up this local geek website called Trinity Geeks, and I'm like, hey, I love comic books. I love movies. I kind of want, I want to write for you guys. I'm done with school. I want to write. Um, Little did I know that I would be getting accepted into the University of Minnesota to go back to school. So I ended up going back there for a year, dropping out, and I went back a few years later and got my degree. And in that time period, I just started writing. That was all I was doing, was writing these articles on comic book related movies. And then when the pandemic hit, is when we seriously started focusing on turning Noggin into something that is now, where we're talking about comics all the time. I would say that was when the pandemic, when I started going on YouTube to actually express myself and be
Hmm.
more active in the chats and stuff like that. But I mean, 2017 is when we started doing this. I kind of feel like it's the same with going on 10 years.
Wow.
And we're starting to finally see growth. I mean, it's patience. I feel like it's something I
Absolutely,
had
it
to
is.
practice there. There's been ups and flows where I'm just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to step away from it. And then I get that one person sends a message like, hey man, where you at? I want to talk to you. So,
Hmm.
and then it's that kick in the butt, and you start doing it all over again.
That's right. Well, another reader-centric question for you, Kyle. I know not everyone has a lot of free time to read, but it sounds like you get to read some comics. What has stood out to you recently that you've read? Didn't have to come out recently, but comics or otherwise that has stood out to you.
uh, I'm a folks. I go to the library often.
Yay. Excellent.
Um, we One thing about Minnesota is we have bookshops, comic shops, and libraries, and almost an overabundance of comic shops now. Um, but I just recently picked up Big Jim and the White Boy. I think that was the name of it.
Yes, it's really good.
Oh, it was a phenomenal read.
Actually, I'm almost certain that got an Eisner nomination.
It
I'm almost
did.
certain. Yeah.
Yeah, David Walker, I think
Yep.
did it, right? Yeah. Um, that was one of the trades recently that I read that I just absolutely loved. As you can see, I'm wearing a One Piece shirt. My friend got me into manga finally.
Mm-hmm.
So I am now 3 volumes into One Piece because of that. And on the current single issues front, um, the whole Absolute line has been killing it. Every book I mean, like I just got said, I just got done reading Absolute Catwoman,
Yeah, that just
but
came out.
uh, Absolute Martian Manhunter though was probably my favorite, and I think it's just because I was so much of a different take than what we were
Yes.
getting. And then indie front, I mean, there's so many good indies out there right now.
Yeah, there is.
Um, Everything that James Tiny is writing, Dork's been a lot of fun. Sorry, I could probably go on for like 10 minutes about what's good right now.
That's all right.
um, yeah, I guess I'll just say that, and even Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men. I
Really
know,
underrated, I think.
yeah, Marvel's not giving out not that much love right now, to be honest. Like a lot of people are kind of complaining about Marvel, and I feel like Daredevil's been good. Um,
Moon Knight's killing it.
Moon Knight, Captain America by Chip Zdarsky. No
Mm-hmm.
one's talking about it, and I love that series. And then Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men, and that was another book I just got done reading this morning. Was the last issue of that?
Mm-hmm.
And I text Nora. I'm like, hey, Uncanny's really good. You gotta check it out when you get home. So,
Love that. Um, as someone who is obviously reading and consuming, and is also on the creative side of things, what is exciting or positive to you right now about comics in 2026 on kind of both fronts?
um, I know I've had some people argue against this, but I've been seeing a lot more of a younger audience getting into comic books,
Absolutely.
and it does stem from the Absolute line. Every
Yep.
time we're in the comic shop, because we tend to close down the comic shops on Wednesday with our local comic shop. We tend to stay to 7 o'clock when they lock the door, just chatting. But we see people come in, from 14 to maybe 25, asking about Absolute Batman. And I mean, I was not collecting when I was a kid. I started collecting when money came in. Is when I started actually collecting.
Yep.
And so maybe 28 is when I started doing actually collecting comic books. So 26. So seeing a kid ask for Absolute Batman makes me very excited. And then um, before we hopped on, we were talking about the comic show at the brewery.
Mm-hmm.
I seen a lot of kids actually grabbing 50 cent or dollar books that came out in the 90s or early 2000s that they just thought the cover looked cool. And that was really encouraging to me to actually see that generation, that younger generation, getting into comics. I felt like that was an issue that we were going to be facing soon. A couple years back, it felt like it was very much, you know, 30 to 50 was where that age gap
Mm-hmm.
was. And even more younger women reading comics too. Um, that's why I love the fact that Nora is huge in the comics now because she is a voice for the female audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that we look at our numbers sometimes, and I remember the Minnesota Comic Exchange hat, and it's a group on Facebook, and we only have 15% women in that group right now. And I'm like, okay, how can we increase that? While I'm seeing at the comic shop, I'm seeing women actually buying comics or at these comic shows. So that's got me excited. Also, the influx and the attention going to indie books too right now
Mm-hmm.
because of
100%.
once again because of Absolute Line, people are going after and buying these indie books, and I'm like, good. I mean, where were you guys when these books were coming out when they were great titles but they didn't sell?
Yep.
Oh,
Well, kind of following up into that, Noggin Comics is, like you said, has been around for a while. But if for people who haven't come across it before, what is Noggin Comics all about?
Uh, Naga Comics has evolved. I can say that. Um, it was originally a we were chronicling our Nora's and I's passion for love, falling in love with each other, but also falling in love with comic books. So I got hacked on Instagram. I became a very attractive woman. I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that. But I'm like, okay, we need to do something. We need to show people that we need not show, but we need to chronicle your finding love in comic books. So I started taking pictures of Nora reading comic books, and we started talking about it. And fast forward now 10 years almost. Next year will be 10 years, and now we have a team of five. We just had an intern join us to get a college degree. She wanted to write for us, and I'm like, I'm not gonna say no. How about a college student? And then we have another couple, Bobby and Reba, who are Reba's basically now our correspondent. She's doing interviews. She's interviewing cosplayers, musicians, comic creators. Bobby's the anime manga person.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just kind of felt like we were getting to that point where we were just so much focused on just DC and Marvel for the most part, and we were talking indie sometimes, but there was so much more than actually comic books too in this industry, this community. You have the anime, you got the manga, you've
The
got the
video games.
cosplayers, video games. So yeah, Noggin has now become a interview, review, and almost now, if you're lucky enough, covering conventions.
Mm-hmm. That's one of my
Um,
goals too.
I just submitted paperwork or an email, not really paperwork, an email to cover a huge nerd event that's happening July 4th here in Minnesota. Um, Bobby and Reba have never done that. We've done it in the past. We did C2E2. We covered right before the pandemic. We done Uncanny Experience. We covered that, and now we're on the team for Uncanny Experience. So it's almost like you get your foot in the door and you end up becoming a part of the community and part of something that you love doing.
That's right.
Uh, but I'm pivoted. I pivoted from what Noggin is. Yeah, overall, Noggin is just a positive space that we can talk about pop culture.
That's a great way to frame it, actually. And kind of the follow up to that, who is Noggin Comics essentially for? Creators, readers, or both?
Um, all the above,
Yeah,
if we can just say that. I love getting creators on to get their books into new readers' hands.
correct. That's the idea of this channel too. Yeah,
I just because, like, for example, we've been talking about Paul and Jesse, who did Smog. Locally, people know that book. They're seeing it in the comic shops. But you get out of Minnesota, no one's gonna see that book unless you see it on YouTube or Instagram or any social media site.
that's right.
And I know they've been on your channel. That they've been on a few other Minnesota comic people too, talking about the book. And the funniest thing is, like, I don't need to reach out to them to know what's happening, despite being, best friends basically with Paul. And I have a book here. It's kind of Garage Karate. It's by a local creator. His name's Wesley Speakman, and he asked us to actually edit his book before it went to the printer.
Wow,
So now we're editing books too.
wow, that's impressive.
So yeah, a lot of the creators, but also we're also reaching out to cosplayers and the video game audience and the movie audience because there's so much crossover. Especially, I mean, well, we got Supergirl coming out in 2 weeks. We got
Hmm.
Brand New Day coming out in July. We got Doomsday in December.
The new X Men
Erased.
'97 season.
Yeah, and we're helping out doing watch parties for that in the state. There's actually a brewery called Gambit Brewery in Minnesota,
That's fun.
and the people that run the Uncanny Experience, they have when the first season was going, we did watch-alongs there, watch parties. Sure enough, I had to text a friend of mine who goes meets us at the comic shop. I'm like, so starting from July 1st through August, we're not going to be staying at the comic shop because we have to go, 20 minutes that way and then shoot down to the city to go see the watch party. But
Love that.
so yeah, basically pop culture in the nerd community is the audience.
It totally is. In terms of what you're highlighting, what kinds of stories or voices are you most interested in kind of amplifying right now through Noggin Comics?
Women and minorities.
Hmm.
Um, and we've had some pushback to that already. I mean,
I'm sure.
uh, we've been putting out these little shorts to promote the interview we have going live tomorrow. And we've got some people with, racial comments and telling you shouldn't be focusing on, you shouldn't be wearing a t-shirt like that, stuff like that. And it's just kind of, you know what, we're all human beings. We've all lived different lives. And I would love for more women creators to not be afraid, or even, women readers to come on and talk
Yes.
about what they're reading. And if we can get that going, job well done. And then like Nervy, he's a musician, he's a rapper in Minnesota who's coming on to our channel tomorrow, and he writes about pop culture. He's got songs about X-Men. He's got songs about Spider-Man, One
Very
Piece.
cool.
So it's like correlation. We want to get more people involved there. And if I'm being honest, just those are those shorts. We've shared 3 of them, and we've never seen this much traffic to our channel. It's almost becoming overbearing to the point that I don't know if you can hear my phone's going off next to me just with the alerts. And I had the message like Nora and Bobby and Reba like, hey, we're we might get a lot of attention for that interview. And
Okay.
that's what we want. We want to get more eyes on it, but we have to be kept cautious in that comment section because people are going to say stuff that we don't agree with.
That's right.
And I mentioned that we had an intern come on, and the very first thing I told her, I'm like, just be okay arguing. If you're gonna release a blog, an article, a video, you're gonna say something, back it up.
Hmm.
Because people are gonna try to bring you down in those comment sections. So, and luckily enough, she never had to face that. It was just this week we finally actually had something like that happen.
That's right.
But no, but just to get more women, and honestly, anybody on. I just love talking comics and creating. Um, like having like I have yet to have Paul and Jesse on the channel, despite knowing them for 3 years now, something like that. Uh, Believe it or not, I actually read Paul's first works before it
Ooh,
was published. So I used to be a part of a comic shop. I invested into a comic shop, and then we were going to publish Paul's first works, but things didn't work out. But yeah, I still have his first draft on my computer.
that's fantastic. Well, another good question for you, Kyle. How do you think about accessibility, whether that's pricing, format, or kind of reaching new readers? How do you approach that in your coverage or just talking
Uh,
about comics?
yeah, that's a really good question because I just the other day was talking to how we should have a video or a discussion about how comics are getting a little pricey right now.
They are.
When the average comic book is $5, and the cost of living isn't cheap right now. It's expensive out there.
It is.
So does that mean people got to cut back on getting books? Do they start reading digital copies? And then this whole thing about you've heard DC blackout, right? The whole situation that
Yes.
happened.
Hmm.
And I was watching a video and they said that the digital reads don't count, like they're not being counted. And I'm like, okay, well, if you want more of those books, they're not being counted when they're being read digitally, so you kind of have to buy the physical copies. And then a lot of people don't know about FOC,
Yes, a lot of people don't.
and it's like FOC does matter. I mean, uh, just yesterday we forgot to pull the book, so it wasn't there because we forgot what day it came out. It was a trade, and our LCS doesn't really get indies that much. Like they get Image, they get Dark Horse, but we've been huge fans of Addiction Press recently.
Oh yeah.
And Volume 2 of The Beauty came out, and we totally forgot that it came out. So first thing Nara is like, "Oh crap, I gotta pick up The Beauty. I gotta go see if Issue News has it." And they're like, "Did you put it on the FOC?" I'm like, "The boat." I'm like, "Oh, we forgot to." But the nice thing about that though is like when you have that connection to the comic shop, they're like, all right, let me just add that to you. Next time it comes in, it'll be in for you guys. So,
Yep.
but no, I'm not a fan of digital getting digitally, but I also understand how accessible that is for people, though.
Yes.
Um,
Especially like through your library platforms.
mhm. We don't have a tablet, but we keep talking about getting one because we get so many advanced copies sent to us.
Same.
And I'm just like, okay, you know what? We need to just buy one at this point just to have it, and like because I don't want to read it on my phone.
Yeah. No, not a good experience.
And I watched one of your interviews, and someone said they create comics on their phones now.
Yeah, Colin the other day. Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah,
holy smokes.
I'm like, I can't even read a comic on my phone.
No. Well, kind of going into your creator's perspective a little bit here. As a creator yourself, how has running Noggin Comics changed the way you approach your own work or how you consume comics media?
um, Gotta think about that one. Uh, I would say like now I understand the time it takes to make comics
Yeah,
and
it's not a quick process.
editorial. If someone's you can be told what to do sometimes, and like if a book's not good, sometimes you don't want to blame the creative team on it. Um, there's a few books from Marvel that I'm like I know these creators. I've talked to these creators before, and I feel like this is just something that editorial told them they had to write.
Mm-hmm.
So as looking at it through a critical lens, like okay, I like this writer, but I don't like this story that they're gonna tell.
Mm-hmm.
And then from you know this standpoint, doing videos and writing and all that stuff, it sometimes you don't want to be too critical because you also kind of want to make that connection with that person that you're talking about.
Right.
So it's a balancing act. You're like, okay, do I burn that bridge if I say something wrong here, or do I just like be very nitpicking? Like, okay, I like this aspect, but let's talk about something I didn't like here. That's okay to do with film, but when the comic community is still small,
Mm-hmm.
and that can get back to them. We just did a review for Death Mother Duck for a Black Panel Press, I think it was called, and they've liked our reviews so much that they keep sending us advanced copies of the books. So I'm like, okay, well, you keep doing that, but just don't get upset if I say something bad about something eventually.
Yeah,
Well, so yeah, it's more about making connections and making sure you don't, overstep on your criticism sometimes.
it makes sense. And criticism a lot of the times is just not, it's about the content of the work, not the creator who created the work.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of flowing into that, what is something about making comics that you think the general public outside of the industry just doesn't understand or just the information is not out there?
How difficult it is to get to the printer.
That too.
A lot of people are like, well, just make it, and it's like, okay, yeah, you can sit down and make it, but finding a printer and finding like having the money for printing it. Um, I mean, I mentioned Garage Karate from Wesley. He actually talked to us before the book came out, asking us about if we knew any printers in town. And the one printer that we did know was currently out of service. And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, we know only one printer right now, and like he's got good deals, but you might have to go to an outside source for this issue. But luckily enough, that got situated. But at the same time, like it's not you don't make money in this industry.
Yep.
This is a passion. And when people are like, oh, I mean, if you're selling comics, you can make money if you're selling comics,
Correct.
flipping them, whatever. But if you're creating, you're doing it because you love it. I mean, unless you're a big name, but even the big names aren't making that much money doing this.
Right.
I mean, I love Tom King, and I know a lot of people do not like Tom King, but I've been a fan of his since Mr. Miracle and Vision. And the fact that he's writing TV shows now, that he's making money doing that,
Yeah.
it's like I'm glad because like you've done so much in the industry, despite a lot of hatred towards your stuff too, but you've done a lot in the industry, so you kind of deserve that extra money in your pocket. So yeah,
That's right.
printing, the money, and going back to FOC. People
Yeah.
still
FOC is that's one of those complicated things.
like and it's from a cut off order. I mean, people might be like, "What's FOC?" If you're not, And let's try to get, if you want a book, get it in by that day. Tell your comic shop you want it by that day.
Yep. Kyle, if you can, in terms of being in charge and running Noggin Comics for this long, can you share any lessons or mistakes you've learned along the way that have either something positive came from it, gave you a new perspective, or something in that realm?
Yeah. The one thing that I've learned, and I think this has come from the last 6 months, from so actually about seven. Uh, we lost Nora's dad in May. May or June.
Mm,
I think it was May or June, and then I lost my grandmother in January. And there was a lot of knowing that stuff wasn't gonna get done because grieving and stuff like that, and it taught me patience. And I'm still working with it, with that today. Like, uh, I wanted to get an article out last night, and I got it out today, and it's like, okay, set yourself goals, but actually be realistic with those goals too. That's
yes.
another thing I've learned is like you can have that goal, like yes, I want to interview McFarlane, but you have to get yourself to that point that you can get that to that point of interviewing that person and being okay, with that. Also, being okay hearing your voice.
Hmm.
I hate my voice. I grew up with speech impediment, so like when I hear my voice, I hear that,
Yeah.
and I edit our stuff too. So I'm listening to my stuff for 4 or 5 hours doing edits, and it drives me crazy. But you have to get past that if you want to do this. So yeah, patience, confidence. I mean, there's a lot that you learn doing this, and I feel like it also teaches you. It can go into your work life too. By
Yes.
having this hobby, it can teach you how to do certain things in your work life. Like I'm an accountant. I don't. I suck with my own money, but I'm good with other people's money. And I don't have a degree in accounting, but somehow I just used the stuff that I learned doing this and got into working with money now.
Well, if you can, Kyle, for us, kind of what is in the pipeline for Noggin Comics this next like 6 to 12 months?
Yeah. So tomorrow we got the Nerdy interview. That's our first interview we've done in 3 years.
Wow,
We used to do a lot of Kickstarter interviews, get
that's what
people.
I've been doing a lot of. Yeah.
Uh, and then life got busy, and uh, so we stopped doing that. We plan to be at a show from July 3rd to the 5th, something like that. It's kind of Convergence. And it's not a comic show. It's one of the few shows that we do that's not a comic show. It's sci-fi, pop culture. It is more of a community hangout for
Hmm.
4 days. Um, we have there's a town here called Shakopee. They're having the uh, first comic show there that's happening at the end of this month. So we plan on covering Crypticon, which is a horror show. We plan on doing October. We have Uncanny Experience that we're going to that we're actually on the team for, and that's in September, which is an immersive X-Men experience. So we turn a mansion into Xavier's mansion.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's coming up in September, and then we have those watch parties happening from July 1st through August for X-Men 97. And then from there, we just have viewing comic books, getting more interviews. Like I said, we're gonna be focusing a lot more on cosplayers because there's a lot of cosplayers here in
So
Minnesota,
many. Whew.
and I'm like, and realizing that that's where the audience is at. People love cosplay.
Yes, and they are great content creators.
Yeah, and so we want to try to get the comic books and cosplay and just kind of get that together. So yeah, we have a lot down there. We have nothing announced, but we have a lot of ideas, I should say.
Totally.
Like, I mean I gotta give you credit for making like the schedule you have. I'm like that. I want to get to the point that I can get to that.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna have to adjust too because once I start a new job here, I'm gonna be going to less per week, but still gonna be probably doing 3 to 4 every week. So that's because it's that important to me. Going now into kind of the industry pulse and getting your opinion on things, how things are going right now. How do you see the relationship between traditional publishers, crowdfunding, and kind of the indie platforms all kind of evolving? And where do you see kind of things in the next couple of years here?
Well, I would certainly hope that distribution gets better.
Yes.
The whole situation with Diamond. Um, I know you had Fabrice on not that long ago.
Reese is one of my favorite creators. I love talking to
Yeah.
that guy.
uh, every time he's in Minnesota, well, he's been in Minnesota twice now, and I talked to him at New York Comic Con one year. But every time I'm talking to him, it is like, well, can I pull up a chair and be here for 2 hours?
Mm-hmm.
And then, his books being trapped or stolen from Diamond, basically.
Yeah.
Um, Seeing that, it kind of like, man, it's difficult being an independent creator right now. It feels like, and crowdfunding, like Kickstarter, there's so much going on Kickstarter. What's the other one?
You got Zoop, and then you've also got Backer Kit.
Backer Kit. That was the other one. I've only done Backer Kit and Kickstarter. But then I have friends, or creators here in Minnesota who are actually producing their own stuff. Paul and Jesse, for example,
Great
Snow Day
example.
Press.
Yeah.
We got Garage Karate right here by Wesley. He's self doing this. He's doing this all by himself. I mean, he's taking it to a printer. You got Brandon on tomorrow. He's doing his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there is a market out there, and you have to work your bell off to get those comics in people's hands. Though,
That's right.
it was kind of funny. I want to tell the story about this convention we did over the weekend.
Sure.
I had a hat on, and I was recording a lot. And Brandon's looking at me. I think he's recognizing me. He's like, "Okay, I know this somewhere." And it was towards the end of the show, and mind you, the building's probably like 110 degrees. It was torturous in there. But comic books, body heat, it's gonna feel it. I finally get to his table, and he's like, "Kyle, I knew it was you." And he was like, "I don't have to sell my book to you because you already bought them." And like, I was part of me was like, "Okay, can you give me your spiel though? Because like, I don't want to know how you're gonna sell these books to me because last time I just bought them because I didn't buy anything at the comic shop and you were there."
That's
uh,
funny.
yeah, it was. But I ended up buying one book of his that I'd never even know he had, and sure enough, so we're gonna be doing a comic haul video about what we got there. I only got 2 books that were from the big two. The rest were all creators.
Yep.
And and that's what I love about going to conventions too. Like, we went to Planet Comic Con in Kansas City this year, and I spent more time talking to Ignition Press because that was the first time they tabled at a show. They had a huge booth there, and then this guy did a book called The Grim Reaper, which is about the Grim Reaper on weed.
That's funny.
And I'm like, you just drew me in with that. I had to buy this book. I ended up buying 2 copies of it because one book's in color, the other was in black and white to have a noir look to it.
Fun.
And he pulled me in because he was talking to me about that. And he's like, "Yeah, the third one, the second issue has been on Kickstarter for 3 years. I haven't got it back yet." I'm like, it was actually a good book, but he's like, but he has shown me, he's like, it takes so much time and effort to get Kickstarter, and then it doesn't get backed. And you got this stuff ready to go. You got the creative team. You paid the creators already. I just need to pay for printing. It was one of those situations. I have a friend named Dennis. He's another comic creator here. He's always doing Kickstarter, and he's failed some, but he's gotten them all back. But it was in a situation where he couldn't find a printer that would print his book because his book had different values than what that printer wanted to publish or print.
Right.
His book was very much LGBTQ related, stuff like that, and the printer was like, "I don't want to take care. I don't want to do this." So he had to find, I think it was Comics for Offspring he had to go through to get it printed. But yeah, as that though, I mean, I think the convention scene is where you can get that interaction with creators.
Very much so.
And to get those books that you've never seen before in the comic shops. Because the comic shop's not going to carry a random creator from Indiana.
Same with the library market too. That's which is even more challenging.
Well, yeah, I mean, so the comic shop that I used to be a part of, every week we would send maybe a pretty decent bunch of comics to that comic shop just to ensure they had single issues. Unfortunately, they don't do that anymore because the inventory is not there for that. And I think that's one bad thing about the library and comic books right now is like, I'm seeing a lot of, when I go to the comic shop, I'm seeing a lot of like Fantagraphic, which is surprising. But I don't see those in comic shops, so but I'm seeing them in the library. a lot of books that are more about like I see March there all the time, and I bought that book when it came out because I was like, I'm a sociologist at heart, so like when that book came out, I needed to get that whole thing, Samus Run.
Yeah.
Uh, Although I do have the Black Panther Party book that David Walker did that I've yet to read. Every time I pick it up, it is so dense. I'm like, I gotta put that down.
It is wicked good. I absolutely love that book. I actually believe actually the year I was an Eisner judge, I believe that actually won, if I'm not mistaken.
I feel like if David Walker is associated with it, it gets an Eisner.
Oh, pretty much, yeah, because he's
But
a really good writer. And you touched on this a few minutes ago, Kyle. But what role do you think community plays in comics today, even compared to say 5 years ago or pre-COVID?
uh, well, I feel like COVID is when we had that comic boom.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, people were talking about comics all the time on YouTube, but that was mostly speculation. I felt like.
Yeah.
Um, I'm wearing this hat, the Minnesota Comic Change hat. We are about at 2,000 members in this group. We do the comics and kegs, the brewery show. We also do 2 mall shows a year, and it's a very active community. It's very it's a lot of selling because the hobby's got to pay for itself.
Mm-hmm.
But we also like to hold events too. Like we've been talking about eventually doing like showing films, something in the backyard, something like that, to get people talking comics. Comics and kegs is created because, well, one, I mean, beer and comics kind of go hand in hand,
Yeah.
and you're not gonna complain. But the original location that we had this at was also a eatery too.
Excellent.
So you had pizza, you had burgers, and all that stuff. You had so many families coming in to a free show, and that's the one thing we pride ourselves on, is that every comic show we've had has been free.
It's huge.
Because if you're not paying admission, you're buying comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of realized. So the show we just went to this over the weekend was it was a $10 fee, which is not bad, but that's also $10 going to go to a comic creator,
Mm-hmm.
because when they're publishing their own stuff, they're going to be having to charge more than the $5. They're going to have to cover that printing fee and stuff like that. Um, the books I've gotten, they're like $10 a piece, $10, $15,
Yep.
and it's because that, well, it's not Image or Dark Horse or DC making these. It's just a random guy who wants his stuff to be read.
That's right.
So yeah, community, word of mouth is huge, and like you look at the success of Absolute Batman, people talk about the book nonstop,
Yeah, totally.
and then that bled into getting indies, and that bled into like the success that Dork had recently.
Yes.
Um,
And all the Image titles.
Doug Ragnar, I'm a huge fan of his stuff, and his book Narco that just came out
Mm-hmm.
about narcolepsy. We were talking to a Planet Comic, and he's like, "I've never had a book that's blown up that big before." And I'm like, "Unfortunately, if you're speculators." He's like, "Don't tell me that." I'm like, "Oh, dude, it's a good book, but like people are specking on that book because of the boom that happened after Absolute Batman." So I feel like the community itself helps sell books, also helps deter people from getting into it sometimes too, though.
Totally.
And if we can use our platform to tell people that you can jump on and read a comic book at any issue, it's helpful too. Because there's a common belief that you have to start at issue 1. And
Mm-mm.
you and I have got that platform to tell people, no, you can read X-Men issue 46. Doesn't really matter because there is a beginning that's going to catch you up where you need to be at.
That's right.
And I use X-Men as an example because when Nora first started reading comic books, she asked, well, where do I start here? And I'm like, with X-Men? Stay away from Stan Lee. Okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, but isn't he huge? I'm like, yeah, I mean, he's basically godfather of comics, but his stuff doesn't hold up today. I'm like, so like, here, I'll give you Chris Claremont. That's going to get you right in there. And you don't have to read a certain issue. God Loves, Man Kills. Read that one. That'll get you in there. Dark Phoenix Saga. That can get you in. And Absolute Catwoman just came out today. You don't need to read Absolute Batman to read Absolute Catwoman.
Right.
Just jump right into it. And I feel like we've got that platform to tell people, you can do that. It's okay.
That's right. Well, you touched on this a couple minutes ago, Kyle. But where are your upcoming convention appearances? Things you're going to be covering? Is Noggin Comics going to be the next month or two?
So yeah, at the end of this month, we're gonna be at Shakopee Comic Con, uh, which is about, well, I mean, it's Minnesota, so it's at Canterbury Park, which is a horse racing place.
Mm,
This is the first show they're having. Then the X-Men '97 watch alongs we're gonna be doing every Wednesday night at Gambit Brewery. Convergence in July. I know this. Oh yeah, the Minnesota Comic Exchange. We have a show happening in September, I believe. I hope I get that right. If someone's gonna correct me, like, no, you got your dates wrong. But we have so many shows going on that we had to buy a planner just to keep up with stuff.
oh yeah,
Um, and then we have, so Minnesota's got one giant show at the end of the year called Twin City Con. It's one that's not really a comic show as much as a pop culture show, much like a C2E2 or New York Comic Con.
yeah.
Um, this year they're getting Ashley Eckstein and the Clone Wars cast. Not the first time, they were here a couple years back, but it was so busy for them that like we gotta bring them back. Last year we had Brendan Fraser and Rosario Dawson
Uh
here.
huh.
So we usually work tables. We usually work the Minnesota Comic Exchange table and the Uncanny Experience table for working those shows. Otherwise, you can find us usually as Jamie Coker Creations, who did our logo. If the show's not in Minnesota and you see us there, it's because we're helping out Jamie.
Ah, that makes sense.
So
Well, if you can for us, Kyle, where can people find Noggin Comics online and follow along with all the things you guys are working on?
yeah, so we have a blog, noggincomics.com, which mostly features movie reviews. I have a buddy who's trying to get me involved with the Minnesota Film Critic Alliance in Minnesota, and I got declined a couple years back because I wrote too much about superheroes. Every film I was talking about had a comic book movie, so we were venturing into horror and still pop culture. Like I loved Masters of the Universe, so I wrote about
Mm-hmm.
that recently. But just before I hopped on to this interview, I dropped the review on Obsession, the new indie horror film. Outside of that, we are now very active on TikTok. Uh, that page went dormant for a while. We were not using it. But when we brought on Bobby and Rebo's like, you have to use TikTok. That's the easiest way to get people to your Instagram, your Facebook, your YouTube. Um, and because of you, I'm back on Blue Sky.
Yes.
I totally forgot that I had Blue Sky until you tagged me, and I'm like, oh, that's right. What the hell is my password?
That's funny.
So yeah, Noggin Comics everywhere. Um, Also, I'm a huge gamer. We were planning to start a Twitch channel. If you're a Marvel Rivals fan, I play a lot of Rivals, and the name's also Noggin Comics. I've basically started a whole brand with Noggin Comics.
Excellent. Well, a fun question for you, Kyle. What is your favorite snack or meal to give yourself some energy for a couple hours to work on a project?
Uh, if Nora's watching, she's gonna laugh. Beef jerky.
Oh, I love beef jerky. Oh my God.
Uh, so we have a Costco not that far from us, and they have like a 4 pound bag for like
Ooh,
$20, which is
that's a
decent.
good price. Yeah.
And this is like it's Korean barbecue. And
Yum.
granted, I mean, it does make your fingers a little sticky, but if I'm working late at night, and just trust me, you probably know this, like you are up late sometimes doing this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to make something; you just want to grab a bag or something. And beef jerky is a lot healthier than it is for chips.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you asked me a year ago, I was a Flaming Hot Cheetos, bro.
Oh, there we go.
So, also caffeine. I mean, you can't do this on just drinking water. Which, by the way, drink water.
A little
um,
important.
yeah, but there's been nights where I'm have a Dr Pepper and an Alani energy drink just to keep me through the night. And it's like I'm on 400 milligrams of caffeine right now.
Oof, that's a lot.
So,
Well,
but hey, I'm
Kyle,
still
well,
young.
exactly. Do that while you can.
Yeah.
We'll end with a reader-centric question. What is next in your to-be-read pile, comics or otherwise?
So I am halfway through the second compendium of Invincible.
Oh, wow.
I've
Okay.
never read Invincible.
I haven't either. I've never delved in. I want to at some point, but I haven't yet.
So yeah, I binged the first compendium, and I can't remember anything from it because I read it so fast. So I'm taking my time with this, but we're also reading probably 20 books a week for single issues.
Mm-hmm.
As a curse, when your partner collects comics too, you buy way too many of them. Uh, I have friends that say, I hate you because your partner reads comics. And I'm like, dude, but my wallet is struggling because of it too.
Exactly.
um, I'm planning to start volume 4 of One Piece.
Mm.
I mean, the funny thing is, like going back, we were just talking about how you don't need to start at the beginning of stuff. Yeah, well, I started at the beginning of One Piece because I was trying to get into it. Uh, Alex Segura had a Daredevil book novel just came
Yeah, it
out.
just came out. Yep. I have it
Uh,
in the other room actually.
just started reading that. I'm only about maybe 15, 20 pages into it.
And he's going to be on the show too soon here as well, coming up.
He was at Uncanny Experience. We've talked to him. He's a very good guy. Um,
Cool.
what else we gotta read? Oh yeah, X-Men stuff. I'm trying to read all the Claremont stuff. I have, he's been writing for 30, 40 years at X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
But he's I've had a lot of experience with Claremont because he's been at Uncanny, and then we've done a lot of shows with Claremont. Planet Comic Con, he ignored me though.
Oh man.
No, but yeah, there's a lot. I told Nora about TBR, this question. She started chuckling. She's like, dude, you read every night. Just say you have everything in TBR. Right now, I actually have a couple books next to me that from this week that I need to read still, like Comics and Magazine. I gotta catch up on
Oh
that most
yep.
recent part of issue.
I actually had them on last week.
Yep.
Adam Freeman, the
Yep.
person in charge. So.
But yeah, that question you can ask me tomorrow. I'll be like, oh yeah, so I started this new book.
Yeah.
But,
Well, thank you, Kyle, for coming on the show today. It's been wonderful to hear about Noggin Comics and your experiences and your background. Is there anything you'd like to close us with before we head out?
don't give up. I know it's like cheesy to say, but there has been more times than I hate. There's more times I like to admit that we almost given up on Noggin Comics. And if you have someone that wants to help out, take it.
Yep.
When we had the intern say she wanted to write for us, she was 10 years younger than us, and she brought back that youthful feeling that when we first started doing this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so that's what it's like to Jack Kirby's like comics that break your heart, and there's been many times where like, yeah, it has broken our heart before. And she came on, and suddenly we started falling back in love doing this again. And then when Bobby and Reba came on, it's been since March, so it's not that long. It's only 2 months, and the resurgence and love and passion for doing this again is just, that's why I say don't give up, because almost 10, last June we almost stopped. We put a plug on it almost. Like there's no point of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay to step away for a little bit and come back, because comic books aren't going anywhere.
Nope.
YouTube's not going anywhere. Social media, as much as a lot of bad stuff on social media, you can find your community there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, don't give up.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Kyle. Everybody that's been in the chat and in the audience, thank you for joining us for 48 minutes. We've had an audience the entire time. This has been Comics for All once again, where comics, creativity, and community all connect. And we'll see everybody next time. Take care.